Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be pouring and finishing this 36 by 28 concrete floor inside this foundation. Now you're going to get some insight into not only how we pour a floor like this, but about halfway through the video when I start finishing the concrete, I'm going to give you some really good tips on power troweling, doing edges and stuff like that, which is very, very similar to what you'll learn inside my training platform, the Concrete Underground. And the Concrete Underground is for people who want to learn how to pour and finish concrete, but really don't have a good place, locally for them to learn. So I've built this platform where you can learn right online here, and that's in the Concrete Underground. Link for that is down below in the description. But currently what we're doing is we got two trucks coming here. We'll dump this first truck right out, so we back them up to the foundation. We have them mix up to a 6.5 inch slump. We put water reducer in the concrete mix so we can pour the concrete a little bit looser without having to add water, which makes our jobs a little bit easier, and makes just pulling it around, screeding it, bowl floating it a lot easier too. So we previously came here and shot our grades with a self-leveling laser, and we shot the top of floor grade here about 4 inches higher than the sub-base grade, the dirt grade. And then we snapped a chalk line around the outside edges, and that's what we're using to go by when we pour the floor. You can see I'm over there magging. I'm up in the back corner there magging the edges right to that chalk line, so we have something to go by when we screed the concrete. While Luke's kind of spreading the concrete out with the rake, and Darren's using the laser now to make what we call a wet pad in the middle. And that wet pad is set to the exact same grade as the outside there where I'm mag floating, so we have a nice flat level floor to go by. Darren just grabbed the hand screed. That's a 14-foot magnesium hand screed, and we like to strike what we call our pads like this by hand. So the center pad is struck by hand. That way we know it's perfect. There's no high spots, there's no low spots. And then after we get that first truck all dumped out, we get what we call a bay ready to screed. So in this one we got two bays. We got this one on the right and one on the left. And then Luke is he just grabbed the MBW battery powered Screed Demon. That's got a 12-foot rod on it. And he's just going to screed the concrete down while Darren rakes the concrete behind him. And now on the right and on the left, he's just watching his screed, making sure his screed is touching our wet pads that we just made. And that's kind of how we screed the concrete really flat. It's not really that hard. It's pretty basic, pretty simple after you've done it a few times. So that's kind of what we're looking for as we screed. It's definitely easier to have a couple guys raking the concrete behind that screed. And what we're trying to do is Darren and I are raking the concrete, is trying to make sure it doesn't get too high behind the screed, but definitely not low. We want Luke to be pulling back just a little bit of concrete as he's screeding that. And he doesn't want to keep stopping and starting. He just wants to go slow and steady all the way back. And then, once we get the screeding done, we'll just run the bowl float over it. And basically with the slump we pour with that water reducer, we can just run that bowl float down and back once. And the surface is really, really smooth. And that's how we leave it right there until we get ready to start putting the power trowel on it. So I got the second truck backed in now, and we'll get this poured out we'll pour out about 95% of this, leave one little low spot where we're going to jump out before we screed it. And it's just something that we do. We're pretty good at raking the concrete around by eye and just getting it really, really close. If you're not that experienced, you might want to stop right here at this point and get that part screeded down first and then finish up this one little section. But we know from doing it every day that we're not going to get too much concrete in here, so much concrete that we have to shovel a bunch out afterwards. We also like hooking the chute on, tipping it over and hooking it on that way so we can pour right over the wall like that, and the concrete doesn't splatter that much when it drops down out of the chute. So I'm shooting the wet pad, I'm just extending it so when Darren gets down to the end of that pad, he can turn the screed like he did right there, and then he can just screed his way right out into a corner. And that's about the speed we go at right there. You know, he's probably got that about half throttle. You could go a little faster if you wanted to, but he's got that about half throttle, and it just makes for, you know, Luke and I a little bit easier raking. We don't have to rake too fast, and we're less likely to get a high spot or a low spot with the screed that way. So once we've got that part screeded, then we'll just finish dumping the concrete. And again, we're going to rake it out just as close as we can, using the chalk line to go by, using the part we already screeded to go by. And we're trying not to get too much down there. We don't want to have to shovel out, you know, a bunch of concrete when Darren gets that screed down towards the end of this wall. So we probably did leave a little tiny low spot here that you can't see. In case we are high, we can just rake it into that low spot. Because we can always add more concrete. The chute's right there, so that's no big deal. Once Darren gets down here, we're just going to pick the screed up, send it over the wall, then I'll grab it. And then we're going to screed the rest of this by hand. You'll see how we get out of a foundation like this, whether it's a 4-foot wall we got to jump over or an 8-foot wall. And you can see they just added probably another half a wheelbarrow of concrete. They got it close enough to where we can get that chute out of the way, and then if we do need any more, we can just shovel it in by hand. Or if we do need to take a little bit out, we're not going to have to take out so much that it's going to take up a lot of time or a lot of effort to get it out. And then we grab a 4-foot screed like that and just screed our way into a corner, and then what Darren will end up doing is he'll drop that ladder down, mag out his footprints, drop the ladder down. There's going to be a couple footprints left there, and he'll just use the concrete rake and just kind of smooth his footprints out. So again, we're going to get into the finishing aspect here soon. This is basically how we pour a simple concrete floor like this, and then, you know, we got to hang out and wait a little bit for finishing, but I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Alright, that house wasn't too bad. 14.5 yards, 3,500 psi concrete with fiber, pouring over the wall like that. And we'll just leave one guy here with a truck, a crane. Crane will drop the power trowel down in. We'll finish with the power trowel, get our saw cuts in today. Should be done around 2 p.m. today. Hey guys, so it's been an hour and a half now after the pour. It's starting to firm up a little bit. It's going to be in the shade all day, so definitely want to let it get pretty firm before we put a power trowel down there. I'm going to go down on my skids, and I'll mag out my edges like I normally do, and that kind of gives me a little bit better idea of just how it feels, how firm it is, and how fast it's setting up. So we're going to go down in there now and check it out. Second load's actually pretty firm. I can only, I'm pressing down pretty hard. I can only press my fingers in about 1/8 of an inch, so it's not too far off from putting a power trowel down here, but it's just about right for going around doing these edges. Alright guys, so I've let that dry up quite a bit more after I went out and did the edges. It's probably been 3 hours now after we got done pouring. Again, it's in the shade, it's probably 70 degrees. The mixing water with the plastic under it, some of it comes up to the surface and just sits there, so it's got to evaporate. It's mostly all evaporated on the second truck. First truck just had a little bit left on it, so I was kind of waiting for that to dry up a little bit, but it's firm enough now where I'm going to go down and just buzz that. We'll get the ladder out of the way, and we'll just see how it goes. I mean, this is basically the basics of finishing concrete. You just got to wait till it's ready. Temperature has a lot to do with it. The sun has a lot to do with it. Sometimes the wind has something to do with it, but it's just how it goes. All right, that went pretty good. It's quarter after 11. Again, the second truck seems to be curing up, drying up a little bit faster than the first truck. It didn't have any bleed water on it, any slime on it. The first truck just had a little film of it wasn't really bleed water, but it was like moisture. So hey, it is what it is. Sometimes they don't always dry at the same rate, so you got to deal with that. That's probably one good thing about finishing the power trowel with the combo blades versus the float and the finish blades is the combo blades, you can keep working your way back up into the wetter stuff without having to change the blades, take the blades off. With finish blades, regular steel finish blades, you don't really want to go up into anything that's wet. But with a combination of finish and float blades, you're allowed to do that a little bit and not really damage the surface. So hey, this is just the waiting game, the finishing game. I'll probably give that, where it's in the shade, I don't know, 30-40 minutes before I think about checking it again, versus if this was right out in the sun, it would be 10 minutes and I'd be right back on it. So that's the major difference right there, guys. So we'll see you in about 30 minutes. All right, so it's about 50-50. The second truck's definitely dried up. The spots on that first truck, still quite a bit of moisture on it, but we'll give it a buzz, give the whole thing a buzz, let it sit for a little bit again, and it is slowly drying. It's just slowly drying. That's all, because it's in the shade. All right, so as you can see, I buzzed the whole thing. It was actually pretty good timing, I thought. This half a little bit drier than the other half, but it was pretty good timing on both. And then I buzzed this half again as I came out because it was quite a bit drier. So probably next hit, this half will be done. Give the other half 2 or 3 more hits probably, and that'll be done. Then we'll get it sawed today and we'll be out of here. Probably another hour and a half or so we'll be out of here. So thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.